If you need unlimited domination, clutch time, or anything else grinded, make sure you hit up Rose NBA on Twitter for quick, safe, and reliable grinding services. Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking the best shooting guards in NBA 2K23 MyTEAM here on a tier list. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 8,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day and would really appreciate your support if you haven't already, if you do subscribe. Additionally, I'm recording this video before Friday content drops, even though y'all are going to see it after the Friday content comes out, simply because I'm going to Las Vegas this weekend. So I'm pre-recording videos so that y'all have content to watch while I am gone. But that means that obviously the Friday content is not going to be included in this tier list. So if there are any players that would make this tier list on Friday, I'll leave a comment and let y'all know where I would put those players on this tier list. But yeah, I do think this shooting guard position is solid, but not probably truly elite at this point. And I think it's an interesting position to rank for sure. I'd love to know which shooting guards you're running as well. So leave a comment and let me know which shooting guards you're using as well, because I'd love to know what your favorite shooting guards are in my team. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. Start off with Mathurin, who's an amazing shooter, not an elite, like he doesn't move incredibly well. Not going to use 2KDB for all these cards because I'm going to try to get through it relatively quickly, but as an Evo card, can't get any added badges, which is annoying, but he does have a 90 driving dunk, gold limitless takeoff, posterizer, half fast twitch, half catch, some good shooting badges, gold quick first step as well, and he's a somewhat acceptable but not very great defender. He has good size at 6'7" though too, and an amazing release, decent movement. Shooting guard position is kind of deep at this point, to be completely honest, so it's hard for me to move him up to the B tier, but I almost think he kind of sort of deserves a spot. I am still going to leave him in the C tier, though, just because I think we have a lot of really good shooting guards, so makes it tough for me to really put him in that B tier, in my opinion. Iggy's still going to go A tier simply because Iggy's one of the best defensive guards in the game. He's listed at 6'6", but he plays bigger than that for sure. Versatile on the interior and obviously an incredible perimeter defender. Smooth release, even though it is a tiny bit slow, but he's also a very good slasher with the MJ dribble style. I do think he's one of the better all-around shooting guards in the game, and if he had a faster release, he might still be an S tier shooting guard to me. Anthony Edwards is going to go B tier. He's 6'5", he's a very good slasher, decent release, decent defender, not an elite card at the shooting guard position at this point, but he is still pretty solid and deserves a spot relatively high on this list, so I do think he deserves a B tier spot for me. Bradley Beal is not good. He's a horrible defender. He's only 6'4". He's got a very good release, but he is a terrible defender who is super undersized at the shooting guard position, and those two things are pretty killer considering the depth of this position and the amount of just solid cards. Like, we may not have the most elite shooting guards in the game, but there are a lot of really solid options at shooting guard, and I just don't think Bradley Beal can compete. So for me, he's a D tier guy. Clyde is still going to go S tier. I don't think Clyde is honestly like I don't think he's top 3 at this point at the shooting guard position. I'll say that, but I do think he is a very good shooting guard still in my team. He's got a solid release. He's an amazing slasher. I mean, I'd say his release is above average. Like, it's a pretty darn good release. He's an incredible slasher and a solid all-around defender. Decent but not incredible movement. He just doesn't play defense like some of these other shooting guards, and I don't feel like he creates his own shot like some of these guys can as well. So while he still is an S tier guy and an elite shooting guard, I don't think he's a top 3 shooting guard at this point in the game, but I still think he's really solid. DeMar, same thing, very solid card, very good slasher, decent movement, pretty darn solid release, and an average defender. He's not quite S tier in my opinion, but I do think DeMar is really good. Also incredibly expensive and incredibly rare, so the only reason you would have DeMar in all honesty is if you locked in Tim Thomas, who we'll get to in the small forward tier list. But I mean, DeMar's a very good card. I just don't think he's truly elite. If you're not locking in Tim Thomas, don't pay for DeMar DeRozan, though. I'll say that because his price is ridiculous. Devin Booker is actually going to go B tier. He doesn't move that well. He's not a great slasher, and he's not a great defender. He's an incredibly knockdown shooter, one of the best shooters in the game, but he doesn't do anything else at a truly elite level. So for me, that's enough to put him pretty low on the list, and I think B tier is honestly probably fair for Devin Booker at this point in the game. I gotta say, I think Dominique Wilkins is probably a bottom 5 shooting guard on this list at this point, which puts him in the D tier for me personally. He's not a terrible card. His release is mid, but he's a very solid slasher. He's got pretty good size, average defender, but he just doesn't move all that well. His release is pretty poor at this point. He's outdated badge-wise and stat-wise considering he came out on day 1 of the game. He was a great card for his time, but he just can't compete against the newer shooting guards, so I think D tier is probably fair. Drazen Petrovic, in all honesty, he might even go D tier as well. I might wind up putting Drazen in D tier, and the reason I say that is, I mean, stats and badges are solid but not incredible. He obviously is an incredible shooter, and he can dunk. He's a pretty solid defender, slasher. But the problem with Drazen that really kind of hurts him is the fact that his release stinks. Like, his release is not very good, and that is a crucial thing for his shooting guard. He does have gold anchor, which is a very solid badge, even though his interior defense and especially block are pretty low, and he moves acceptably but not amazingly. Obviously a knockdown shooter when he's open, but the release stinks, which takes away the value of him being that elite shooter. So is he a bottom 5 shooting guard on this list? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to put him at the top of D tier for now. We may wind up adjusting and moving him up for now, but for now, I think that's fair because his release stinks, and that's really what he does best. Now, Eddie Jones. Y'all might think I'm gassing it. I'm putting Eddie Jones in the S tier. I think he is the 5th best shooting guard on this list, in my personal opinion. An elite defender, a great slasher, a money release, moves really well. This card is phenomenal. Did gameplay with him on my YouTube as well, if y'all want to check that out. I think Eddie Jones is an absolute dog, and if you got this card as a takeover card a couple weeks ago when he was available, you're not going to regret it. He is an amazing, amazing card. J.R. Smith's going to go C tier. Money release, good slasher, doesn't play much defense, doesn't move very well, terrible size up, but he does some really good things on the offensive end of the court with a great release and an elite slasher. So still think he's a solid card, and I still think C tier is fair. Jaylen Brown is a versatile defender. He's a versatile all-around card. Good slasher. I mean, he's a very good card. He's just got a slow release. I think he's better than a guy like Drazen, but his release is very, very slow, and that hurts the card more than anything else, and that is why I'm going to put him in the C tier at this point, despite the fact that I still think he's a pretty solid card. Jimmy Butler's an easy S tier, probably the best shooting guard currently in my team, or the 2nd best shooting guard in my team, however you want to put it. But I do think Jimmy's obviously an exceptional defender, versatile on the interior, has normal fade, which is amazing, a super solid release just as his base release as well. He does a lot of things really, really well on the basketball court. I think he's at least arguably the best shooting guard in the game, and really an easy S tier for me. Joe Johnson's going to go B tier. Solid release is kind of mid. He's not an amazing defender. He's just kind of mid, to be completely honest. He's not crazy fast. He's not a great defender. He's a good shooter, but not insane. I mean, his badges are pretty good. He's a decent dunker. He's just kind of there. Release is not incredible. Movement is not incredible, but all of it's solid. He does have the normal leaner, which is the best leaner in the game, so that is nice. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's next level good, and I think he probably is a B tier type of guy. I will say easy F tier from D tier for me. I don't have an F tier, but a D tier would be Hondo as well. Just a guy who has a good release but moves very poorly. Badges are not there. Another day 1 card that just really is not all that good and doesn't deserve a spot very high on the list. I do think Chris Middleton's probably also going to slot in that B tier. I just think that's probably the fairest spot to put him at this point. Good defender. Release is pretty mid. He does have normal fade, which is really good. But honestly, he and Joe Johnson are basically the same card. They're going to give you the exact same thing on the court. So both of them should either be B tier or C tier or wherever you want to put them. But, and actually I'm considering moving them down to C tier, but for now we'll leave them in B. Lance Stevenson is one of the best budget PGs shooting guards in the game. And he actually might deserve a borderline A tier spot. I think I am going to put him in that A tier because how versatile he is. He's a good defender, even on the interior, very money release, good slasher, one of the best budget shooting guards in the game. And I do think he probably deserves an A tier spot. Guy who's B tier is Latrell Sprewell, basically a great budget shooting guard just like Lance, but I don't think he's quite as complete. Still pretty solid all the way around badges and stats, but his release isn't as good as a guy like Lance's. But he's a very solid card for sure, and I do think he deserves a spot pretty high on this list in the B tier. We're going to go Luca in D tier. I'm sorry. Luca's my favorite player in the world, but this card sucks. He doesn't do anything well on the basketball court, and it makes me tough to use him, to be completely honest. So yeah, I think D tier is probably fair for Luca. MJ, on the other hand, I mean, he was great when he came out. I'll say that. At this point, I struggle. I feel like we have a lot of B tier guys, but I struggle to put MJ higher than B tier because his release is not good. He doesn't have handles for days. He's a very good defender and an amazing slasher. And because of that, I'm going to actually move Chris Middleton and Joe Johnson down to C tier and put MJ in the B tier because I do still think he's a very solid card. I'd say he's on the level of these guys who are in B tier, so I think he deserves a spot there. Wish he had a faster release, though, because that would really elevate this card and put him at that next level. Ray Allen is very, very good. We're going to put him top of A. I don't quite think he's S tier, but I do think he's a very, very good card on that borderline for sure. Money release, super solid defender, great fade, very good slasher, very versatile card. Really, really good. I think he deserves a spot. I mean, you could argue he's S tier, I'll say that, but for me, I'm still going to put him A. Richard Jefferson's going to go high B, one of the best slashers in the game, super versatile defender, great size at shooting guard, just a horrible release, but he's so good in every other area that I still think he deserves a B tier spot despite his release being really bad. So for me, I think he's a B tier guy. Ricky Davis is a super easy S tier. He and Jimmy are the 2 best shooting guards in the game, in my opinion. Ricky Davis, one of the best offensive cards in the game, amazing sigs, money release, elite slasher, and a capable defender who has really good size at shooting guard. But him and Tim Thomas are really the only 2 elite dribbling cards in the game right now that are truly have amazing SIGs, and Ricky Davis is an absolute dog that definitely deserves a top tier spot. I'm going to put RJ Barrett in the, yeah, we're going to put RJ Barrett in A tier. I think that's probably fair. Nah. No, I lied. We're going to put him in the B tier. I think he's at the top of B tier with these guys, but I'm going to put him in the B tier simply because I just don't think he's quite to the level of the guys that I have in A tier, but he's close. Like him and Lance Stevenson are pretty close. Really good release, versatile all-around card. I think he's very similar to a guy like Latrell Sprewell and Lance Stevenson, somewhere in between, to be honest. I think you could make an argument for him A tier, but I'm still going to go B tier. Not quite as complete as I would personally like, but I still think he's a very good card and an amazing budget option for sure. Ron Artest is my third favorite shooting guard in the game. Money release, elite defender, solid playmaker, just a really, really good all-around card. I think you're going to see this card a ton in competitive still, especially for people who don't have Jimmy Butler, and I think he's an elite level shooting guard still. In my opinion, the third best shooting guard in the game, and I think he's got S tier written all over him. Steve Smith is going to go A tier. Versatile card. I mean, he's very, very complete, especially once you badge him out. I'm not sure if 2KDB has updated his badges now, and they still haven't, but he can get every badge added now, which makes him a lot more versatile in terms of being able to get a lot of his badges upgraded, getting the anchor badge, getting the glove badge, getting the limitless takeoff badge, and having those badges on him is really nice, coupled with one of the better releases for a shooting guard in the game. Decent movement, capable defender, really, really solid card, and I do think he deserves an A tier spot. Tyler Hero is going to go C tier for me. Release is solid, but not incredible. Size, same thing. He also has a very short wingspan. I think he's listed at 6'5" with a 6'3" wingspan, which is kind of crazy to be completely honest, and yes, he is. He's got decent speed, though. He's a pretty decent defender because that's where he's glitched. Really solid shooter as well, but Off Agent 3 isn't quite as good considering his leaner isn't the normal fade. He moves okay, but not amazing. He's not a great slasher. He's a solid card. I just don't think he's amazing. I think he's probably on the level of guys like Joe Johnson and Chris Middleton in the C tier. We're going to put Vince Carter in the B tier as well, simply because of how amazing of a slasher he is, as well as the fact that he's got a money release. Not a great defender, but he's got decent size, really good athleticism, but unfortunately he's missing some key defensive badges, which make him, it makes it hard for me to put him higher than B tier, but I still think he's a very good card. And then finally we have Wally Szczerbiak, who I think is one of the most underrated cards in my team. An absolutely incredible release. I know his stats aren't ridiculous, especially in terms of speed, dunking, and defense, but he can get every badge as a trophy case player. Is an absolutely incredible shooter with unbelievable shooting badges. Can get, like I said, those key badges added, like a limitless takeoff, a posterizer, a clamp breaker, an anchor, a clamps, badges like that. And his release, I don't know what default swing base is, but whatever it is absolutely incredible on Wally Szczerbiak. Such a good release on this card. And he also moves really well with the MJ dribble style and the curry behind the back. So one of the most underrated cards in the game. I think Wally Szczerbiak's a beast, especially when badged out, and I think he deserves an A tier spot. So this is my tier list of the best shooting guards currently in my team. Let me know what you think of my list down in the comment section down below. Who's maybe ranked too high, too low, or that I left out the list entirely that you'd like to get my thoughts on. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.